Welcome, ladies and gents. Got some good news. Got some update on the Highlander reboot with Chad Stahelski and, of course, Henry Cavill. Now, this isn't sarcasm. I do genuinely think this is good news. This is a reboot which I'm personally looking forward to. I think this will be good. All signs point to it being good. All the comments from everyone involved. So we've got an update. I'm excited. Are you excited? Let me know down below. Hit subscribe if you're new here. Turn the bell notifications on. Let's take a look. So Chad Stahelski came and gave Collider the exclusive. So that's why we're there. It says, here's when Chad Stahelski's Highlander reboot begins filming in Scotland. Exclusive. So it says this. Chad Stahelski's Highlander movie is set to start filming in January in Scotland. They've already done test screening. They have already been up there. I know that. I have some images. So Henry Cavill will, of course, play the lead in Stahelski's Highlander reboot. Stahelski is excited to blend period piece elements with sci-fi. Stahelski says they've got cast training for stunts and sword fights up and running, which is probably what I've seen in behind the scenes stuff. But anyway, so it says this. Chad Stahelski is gearing up for his next big project, Highlander, for which he has now revealed new filming details. It is important to note, by the way, from, I think it's Lionsgate, Chad Stahelski's been put in charge of Highlander as a property and John Wick as a property. So he's like the Kevin Feige of these things, which is quite cool. I think that's good news. So, anyway, yeah, Henry Cavill is on board as the star of the reboot, and his enthusiasm for the film was palpable, as he explained at CinemaCon earlier this year. During an interview with Collider's Stephen Weintraub, the Mediterranean Film Festival in Malta, Stahelski shared insights into this exciting new chapter. Last year, Stahelski told Collider that he was aiming to have the film in production within a year, so he wasn't too far off, as he recently told Weintraub now. So he says, we start shooting in January in Scotland, and that's why I go, as where I go right after I leave. I go to Scotland on Monday to do the final location scout. And they have been scouting. They're scouting quite a while, actually, but I think that's also incorporating some screen tests. And maybe some of the sword fighting, I guess. But they've been doing it for a while. Like middle of last year or something like that. Quite a long time. So the film promises to showcase Stahelski's signature action style, particularly in sword fighting. A challenging yet thrilling element for the director. He acknowledged the cinematic nature of such fights and expressed his enthusiasm for the project and all the history behind it. So he says, and quote, it's another opportunity to do a property that I love, Stahelski said. And quote, I love what it's about. I love working with immortality and love stories through time. I think it's a good way to take a great period piece and sci-fi and mix them together. I mean, he's not wrong. Chad Stahelski wants to apparently balance sword fighting with action scenes, which I think is good. You know, why would you not? They're immortals, right? You wouldn't just fight with swords. You know, through all that time, you would, yeah, you get pretty good with action. You know, hand-to-hand combat, stuff like that. So Stahelski emphasised the complexity of training actors to handle swords convincingly, highlighting that achieving realistic and engaging action sequences requires significant preparation and dedication. However, when it comes to balancing authenticity with entertainment, Stahelski is cautious not to let the film become just a series of sword fights, as the man in total control of the franchise now, what he says, goes. Which is, again, he was just given the keys. Go, do with it what you will. But what a good person to have in charge. I think that's a great fit. So his action work has been mainly based around gunfights to date, so switching to steel presents a challenge for him, particularly because audiences have been trained in what to expect based on their own histories. So he says this, I'll keep it to the core. Most audiences, I'll use the gun analogy, most of what you know about gunfights or car chases, because most of us don't get involved in gunfights or car chases or sword fights. We learn through movies. And what those movies show you is about 95% bullshit. You don't fight 50 guys with your bare hands and then walk away. But it's fun. It's wish fulfillment. So John Wick, we know it's a cartoon. I know it's not, but we also have fun with it. But we do tactical reloads. We try to do fire manipulation, stuff like the professionals do, the military do. But then we have fun with it, you know? Sword work is very much the same. Good way of looking at it. So it says here, Chad Stileski thinks audiences wouldn't believe how long learning stunt work takes, which is, I mean, a bloody long time, to be fair. I would imagine. So it says, although armed with the finest stunt team in the world at his disposal, of which he's one of them, Stileski noted that training the actors themselves in fighting and choreography presented an immense challenge, comparing it to training members of the public in how to become superstar athletes. Stileski added that even Keanu Reeves, the star of the John Wick movies, took a decade to learn how to do what he does so efficiently. So he has to ensure he can trust his actors to not take each other's eyes out during a sword fight. There's some very interesting sword styles out there, but most of the time we don't have a lot of time, or we don't have access to some people, or the cast members. Sometimes you only have 3 or 4 days or 3 or 4 weeks to train the cast member. Actors are no different than you. If you have become an NBA basketball player, could you do it in 3 weeks? Could you do it in 3 months? Could you do it in 3 years? Yet the burden is on us to make it look like they're the best in the world that has ever lived. Good way of putting it. I mean, this is interesting. It's a peek behind the curtain, isn't it? I don't think you understand what kind of time that takes. We can use a few movie tricks, stunt doubles, editorial, but at the end of the day, you still have to believe it. When you see Keanu Reeves doing gun work, that's Keanu Reeves. When you see Keanu drive, that's Keanu driving the car. And that has taken the better part of 10 years to get to that point. That's incredible. Again, a peek behind the curtain. Swords, to me, are one of the trickiest things to do in fight scenes because if I mess up too much with the firearm, the muzzle flashes to digital, he added. Quote, so we don't have to worry about anyone hurting anyone. When we do car stuff, that's also a big concern, but there's ways now, cables that take some of the hazards out for the cast. He went on to explain that with, quote, swords, it's a little trickier because now I've got to trust that my actors are swinging this piece of metal at each other and hopefully not going to take their eyes out or stab someone. Every sword movie, somebody gets poked or hit on the head or something like that. It takes a little bit more skill and a bit more dedication, so that's always a concern, which is true. They don't have that worry on. They just got to make sure they don't load the guns, I guess, on John Wick. But these, you could really do some damage. You could hurt someone. So Stileski wants the Highlander to present a new style of sword fighting. Oh, sorry, he did say a little bit. Stileski's also concerned with keeping audiences entertained. Says, sometimes a 3-minute sword fight can be a little boring, so I'm more worried about, am I going to bore you with a movie about sword fighting? And how do I sprinkle in firearms and martial arts and car chases? And what's the story part of things? I have to get that also well. Or get that as well. With faith in his team to make everything look convincing, Stileski isn't worried about the details of how well his actors swing swords. His goal now is to bring together all of the moving pieces. So he says this. Most of our concerns now are not really about training cast. We've got that machine up and running, and I think we have the right cast, we have the right people, we have the right trainers. We've dug up some of the best sword people I've ever met in my life in the last 6 months that are helping us. It's more about how do you bring it all together and make it something. It's not Princess Bride, it's not Crouching Tiger, it's not Master and Commander, it's not Zorro. What's this new look of action or sword fighting that people could be excited about? That keeps me up at night. So he's trying to do something new, which is good. I mean, there's nothing else really, but I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, I'm keen for this. I'm really, really keen for this. And I think Henry Cavill will do great in the role. I think he'll be pretty convincing, to be fair. And I do think, you couldn't get a better person to do all the action work, could you, than Chad Stileski? Let's get real here. That's a great pick. So let me know what you think down below. Please do hit subscribe. Please do share the video out. And if you want to support what I do, then check out my Patreon. It's the first link down below. Take care. Bye-bye now.